is Kandy's Quarantine Conversations with me, Kandy Dolor. And joining me today is my super special guest, my mum, Delia Dolor. Hi, Mum.
Hello, daughter.
I introduced you differently. I don't know why.
That's okay. It's because I'm
But
different.
it's true. But for everyone who doesn't know, my mum is a radio and TV presenter, and she's also currently the editor-at-large of Carib Direct magazine. And she does loads more other things too, which I'm sure she'll mention during our conversation. But first of all, I'm going to ask you the question that I ask all my guests at the beginning. How has the lockdown lifestyle been treating you, Ma?
I have to say that I feel very guilty because the lockdown has made me feel safe, actually, because where I am at the moment, I'm actually in the desert in Texas, and the nearest person to me, apart from my husband and the other people who live around exactly where I am, is about 34 miles away. And there isn't really anyone here, maybe just two of us here at the moment. And I feel guilty because I can hear what other people are going through and we are not affected by it. So it's treated me well, and like most people, it's given me the opportunity to reflect on my life and on my health as well. And also, it's made me think about when I was younger, the things that I could have done to prepare for a day like this. So it's been a reflective time for me and for most people.
Well, you definitely shouldn't feel guilty because you are where you are, and where you are is where you're supposed to be. So, yeah, definitely don't feel guilty, and I think that you deserve to be where you are. And I'm happy that you are where you are, because if you were here, I'd be worried. So, yeah, but I do feel, obviously a lot of people have lost their lives, and it is really, really sad. And yeah, sending loads of love and best wishes to people who have lost their loved ones. But yeah, moving on. So, Mum, can you tell the viewers and listeners a bit about your background and how you got into journalism?
I started at the age of 11 in a small island called St. Lucia, 238 square mile island, St. Lucia, when I was a guest on a radio show. And the producer heard me, and when the presenter was away on holiday, they asked me to fill in. And that's how I started radio. And then there was a gentleman called Mike Phillips from the BBC who was visiting, and he heard me and came to the radio station and said, wow, you really should be considering, returning to London, because of course he heard that I had a British accent, and said you should return to London and start doing some work there. So that's how I started the radio. I started writing from an even earlier age at school, when I used to write love poems and poetry for people who wanted to tell someone else how they thought, about them or felt about them. So I started doing it then, and everyone started to say, "Oh my gosh, you're doing it, really well." And in class, I would write something, and I'd just be sitting there finished, and everyone else was still writing, and I'd be thinking, there must be more. But the teacher would read it and say, "Oh, that's really good," and there was no need to rewrite. And I've been very lucky to carry that skill with me, that I very rarely rewrite anything. I write it once. If it takes me 5 minutes, it takes me an hour, which I don't think that's ever happened. Doesn't matter how long my piece is, apart from when I was at university doing my dissertations. Of course, that's completely different. But on a work arena, I started that. And then on television, I started via, again, another producer, where someone heard me on a radio show, which was Choice FM at the time. The presenter then was Jeff Schumann, and I was a guest. And in talking, someone from the BBC heard me and called me in and said, "Would you be a guest presenter?" And simultaneously, Jeff had me there for an article that I had written, and that article was very interesting to many. And I had another producer from the BBC call me at the same time saying, "Can you come in to talk about the article?" And when I went in to talk about the article, the same thing, a producer said, "You're actually presenter material." And so they would call me in, and lots of other media houses would call me in for relief presenters. And then I had got my own radio and television show eventually. So that's how I really started.
Well, that sounds good. Shout out to Jeff Schumann.
Oh
So,
yeah, Jeff has been wonderful. Very much of a supporter.
I agree. Yeah, so tell us about your TV show, The Dolor Factor, because that was a really good show.
Yeah, the Dolor Factor began in St. Lucia and then quickly went through the Caribbean islands because it was one of the main programs on a cable network, Caravision, which broadcasts in 24 Caribbean islands, part of the United States and the UK. And it was, well, if people are familiar with the Caribbean, you'll know that people really love radio. They really do love radio. And they also like politics. Yeah, most people do, but St. Lucia can be very political and very religious. And all the shows that they had on television, all the local programming at that time was either the news or something political, and maybe some music, but it just wasn't. You didn't. It was few and far between, and we didn't have any talk shows. I had many talk shows, but again, very political. It was either led by a politician, broadcasted by a political company. It was just political, and I just thought there is a gap here where people can talk about the things that are around them. So that's how the Dolor Factor started. It started with just talking about day-to-day interests. Yes, we spoke about social interests, which had a kind of sideline to political, but it never became talking about the political parties or members. It was just about life. We spoke about lots of things, whether it was someone's emotions, things they were going through, um, the cost of living, you name it. We had conversations around it. But before it actually got into television, it was a radio show, actually. And because the radio show grew so much, I was approached by a television station to take it into television. So we took it into television, and that's how it actually started to grow via television. We had about 9 seasons before I took a break. And, even when I go back, people say to me, why aren't you coming back? Why aren't you coming back? It was the only show that we could sit there and listen and talk to you. And it was responsible. That show was responsible for bringing a lot of things out in the open. I had lots of people who would actually say on the show, I didn't really want to come, but now that I'm here, I'm so glad because I'm able to talk about situations that I never thought I would be able to. I haven't spoken about this for many, many years. I didn't even realize that this is how I was feeling about the situation. I also had politicians. I actually had the Prime Minister. I interviewed the Governor General of St. Lucia. But again, when they came on, it was nothing to do with their position in society. It was about a particular subject. So we had the Prime Minister on talking about Father's Day and being he himself, his father died very young, and the effect it had on him. And the show was very responsible for making people responsible, for making people think about their lives and the differences they can make right now instead of living in the I should have, I wish I, instead of reflecting back, remember, but build on them and move on. So, and also I'm very proud to say that a lot of people didn't know that this was happening in the background, but I had a team of counselors because a lot of people would reach out to me, and I could not, at the time I was advised not to speak with these people directly because they had serious issues that needed to be counseled. Now, I am actually a counselor, but I have not trained in many, many years, and I didn't want to get involved in that way. And we had enough counselors on the island, which of course, it is also a taboo subject where people don't want to be seen talking to or tell people they talk to counselors and so on and so forth. So I actually had many times people calling me at the end of the show because it was live and tell me that they're in such a state emotionally and mentally that I had to leave the studio maybe 10, 11 at night with the counselor to go with the counselor so that they would let the counsellor in, and then I would go and lead them to it. And we saved quite a few people's lives, and I'm very, very happy that the show, if it did anything, that it did that. So that's more or less about the Dolor factor. People ask me, please come back, and I say to them, I would love to come back, but let's forget COVID at the moment, where there isn't much money around. Even before that, people don't realize how expensive it is to produce a television show, and even if they do, they don't want to put their money where their mouth is. It is expensive, and I can remember sometimes going to sponsors and they'd say, well, we really love your show, we want to be part of it, so what about giving us a contra deal? I said, okay, what are you offering, value for value? They say, oh, something like, oh, I'll give you about $2,000 worth of water, or $2,000 worth of paint. And I'm thinking, well, that cannot work. Although I did have a water sponsor, I have to say they did not do that. They paid and they gave water. And I want to say thank you to Paradise Waters for that. They were a sponsor for many years. But other companies, that's what they would want to do. And I say, look, I have to pay my team. I don't just stand there and deliver a show. I have a producer, I have a director, I have camera people, lighting. You just cannot, if you want quality and you want quality guests, you have to invest in your product. And so I had to do that. And I keep saying, that's why you want to be part of it, because I've shown you this product. So in order for the product to continue this way, I need adequate funding. And so it started to kind of dwindle as to how much people wanted to give. And then when I saw I had like 10 sponsors, it was too much to give back. At the beginning of the show, the Dolor Factor is sponsored by A, B, C, D, E. It's too much. It was just too much. And I thought, you know what? This isn't going to happen. I'm going to stop when I'm at the top of things, where I'm delivering quality. And when people ask about it and I tell them what the problem is, when I'm ready to do it again, I'll have maybe the 3 or 4 choice sponsors who will be ready to pay for it in money so I can pay my team.
Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. So going backwards, before you had the Dolor Factor show, I remember that you used to do so many things. And I'm talking about when I was young, and I remember you going to uni. I remember you like putting movies together with your friends, like making short films, going and interviewing people. Like, I remember that you interviewed legends like Whitney Houston and Aaliyah and people like that. So did you ever know what you wanted to do that back then, or was it just a bit of diving into everything that you were interested, or did you just have one straight route that you were following, or was it just you just took whatever opportunity that came, kind of thing?
That's an interesting question, because I never mapped out my life, and sometimes I think I should have, and I think if I had, I would have been doing something different. But at the same time, I'm glad that it happened this way, because now I'm very appreciative to where I am now and what I have done. I have been privileged to be in certain places at certain times, where right now it just isn't possible. And also I was when I started, there weren't many Black people in front of the cameras. There really wasn't many of them. And so I was very lucky that I never had to audition for anything. I never had to apply for anything. Somebody always heard me or saw me and thought, she's interesting, let's reach out to her. What's her point of view on something? They would, and when I go on one show, then I'd get someone else to call me. It always happened that way. And so I think that's why it was a progression for me. Wherever I was called, I went. I got the exposure, I got the payment. And at the time, that's all I was thinking. I need money. I have my 2 children. I want to bring them up. A lot of the time, I was a single parent bringing up the children. And so it was about money and survival more than I have a talent. Where should I direct it? I went into college initially because my children were, going to school, and I had time during the day. And also, I was already doing a lot of this work before I even went back to college. And I just thought, when people are now asking me certain questions, because by then I was presenting my own show, and it was one of the shows was called Nighttime Dilemmas. And it was a really late night show, of course, Nighttime Dilemmas, and people would talk about their dilemmas. And some of them were really, really chronic and critical and worrying and disturbing. And they would ask me questions, and my role was not to answer the questions. My role was to ask the listeners to give their opinion. And at no time could I actually give my opinion. All I could do was sympathize, ask if they had tried certain things, but I couldn't really make the contribution that I wanted to. Because and I thought, you know what do I need to do? So then I thought, okay, I need to do some counseling, and I also need to look more into the media. And there was a 1-year media course, which wasn't too far away from me. And it gave me the opportunity. I could, make sure my children were at school, go to college and come back. So it was fine. And in starting that, then I realized, actually, I went in as a mature student, and everyone else around me were much younger. But I found that I was more passionate about what I was doing. I was very, very dedicated. And the young people were coming to me, they all wanted to work with me. And I found that strange at first. But in doing that, it made me realize that I don't have to just stop at this course. And a lot of the tutors are saying, you actually need to go to university because, and also at the time I was still doing television work. And so people were seeing me and they said, look, I think you need to do that. So then, yes, I went into television. So when I went into university, I did all different types of things. And I didn't, funny enough, I do magazine editing now, and I do radio and television producing and presenting, but I didn't learn those things at university. I did photography. I did Super 8 film movies and producing in the dark room. It was like in the old age, but I'm glad that I did all those things. Digital imagery had just started. So we started on those things. And of course, we did all the theory. But in terms of my presenting roles and so on, that came out of life skills. And I'm not saying to people, don't go to university or don't have an education, because now things have changed. And these very same jobs that I did, I remember I worked at the BBC for some time, and I remember looking at an application form that they had for one of the positions they had on the team, and I couldn't believe all the questions that they were asking. And I said, why are you asking all these questions? And they said, it's because we need to, sieve out all those people who aren't really interested. And if we give a big application form and someone gets to the end of that, that means that person is dedicated, they're passionate, they're interested, they will get the job and they will stay and they will learn. But if we give it to someone and, it doesn't come back, we know that person wasn't right for the job. And I always remember that. And that made me more grateful that I'd never had to go through those processes, because either I was already in there or someone I had worked with previously had said, oh, I know someone who could do this job for you. So that's how my life, I never planned it. It just happened that way. I think the only thing that I planned was the Dolor factor. And that was because I was program controller for the national radio station at the time. And there was a gap. They couldn't fill it. And it wasn't my role to be a presenter. I was the program controller. But because that gap was there, I thought, there is a gap in the programming. And this is the kind of program that we need. We need someone who's not political, someone who can talk about, all these subjects. And then someone said, well, why don't you do it? You are a broadcaster. You can do it. And I thought, yeah, well, why not? So that's how I started. It's never been, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to write a TV show and I'm going to, only now I've started doing that. And I think that's because you have to, the way the platform is at the moment with YouTube and Instagram, IGTV and everything that's going on, unless you have already made your name on the international arena or in a specific country on their arena, you have to plan to do something and be yourself and be unique and deliver something that's different than what everyone else is as doing out there.
Well, it sounds like everything came together for you just the way it should have, because I remember you doing loads of other things. Like you even wrote that series. I always talk about it,
I know,
Vibration.
so I'm
I
laughing.
love that so much. It was
Yeah.
like, it was better than EastEnders. I used to just read it for fun, you know. I used to take that script to school and read it to my friends. Everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so good," you know. And I will never forget that script ever, because I feel like, you know, you're so talented, and you writing that, it really was a series. It could have been on TV. It should have been on TV.
Well, I remember the lead at the time was Sandra B, and at that time she was the lead in one of the leads in Brothers and Sisters, I believe.
Yes.
And her role was Petronella.
Yes.
And she was like, Delia, what are you doing? Oh my God, we got to do this. Let's take this somewhere. And she didn't matter what time, remember, of the day or the night.
I remember nighttime rehearsals.
Come home and do rehearsals. It was, and they would go in the kitchen and make tea, and it was so nice, make sandwiches and everything, just rolling through it. And we had no plans. I just wrote a script. I can't remember who it was that read it. They liked it, and then they told someone else, and they said, why is it sitting there? Let's do something with it. And then we all sat down, but then a lot of those people became famous. You know, they had work to do, and then so the script just, we'll get back to it. And I was so dedicated and loyal to them. I wanted them. I didn't want to use other people. And then, you know, life goes on, and you have to go for the paid jobs, and you know. And Sandra B was celebrating her 50th birthday on Facebook a couple of days ago, and I just remembered those days. You know, and even there's lots of people back in the day who were starting off. I remember, like Richard Blackwood, you know, and most of the black cast on EastEnders, they were all part of our group where we would rehearse and we would go to each other's shows to support each other. And people didn't know who we were. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. But when we look at each other now, we see each other, we just, you know, when you just see a long lost friend, and you're like, you just see that person as they were when they were in their 20s starting off. You know, you don't see them as they are now. You see the person that you grew fond of. You know,
but you know what, since then, I think that maybe then, I mean, that script was amazing, and like I said, it's unforgettable. I will never forget it. Even as a child, I remember wanting to come to the rehearsals with you late at night, so I was like, I don't want to miss out, I want to come. And because we lived on an estate at that time, on a council estate, I was like, you know, I was young, I was all about the drama, and to me this was just like the best drama.
I know. I remember it was called Manly Walk, right?
Yes,
That's what it was called. It was about some DJs, but I won't give anything else away, because actually it's still prevalent right now.
I was going to say to you, Mum, do you know what I was going to say? Maybe that wasn't the time, because since then you had, you know, other experiences that you could, you know, actually write about, maybe twist it a bit. But, you know, you have grown so much since then. I'm sure that you can, you know, add to that script, tweak it about a bit, and still push it, because it's amazing. It's brilliant. It's the best series. It's the best thing I've ever read. It's like, it's the best book I've ever read, you know.
No, it's amazing. I do have it. I have it in my floppy disks, the 3.5 floppy disks. People my age will know what they are. Your age, perhaps you won't know.
I know what the floppy disk is, Mum.
They were the 5.25-inch floppy, and then the 3.25. And so I actually put it on a zip drive. And as technology progresses, they tend to transfer it onto, because I do know, well, maybe it's something that, you know, you can look at, and you can take it over, and you can do it, and you can, you know, all the people who were in it before, I'm sure, whether they can't do it right now, they would be able to tell you who would be able to, or they would even do it. I know Sandra, I'm sure she would say, yeah, and she'd even kind of, I wouldn't say take it over, but help you and assist you, and, you know. So it's.
And do you know what, Mum? That is your masterpiece. I would be happy to
you're
help
my daughter.
you and assist you. But
my successes are your successes.
I couldn't even write it like that. Honestly, it's really, really good. And I think you should definitely, when you have
underestimate
time,
yourself. You always have.
Mum,
it's time for you to stop that. You can do it.
I think that, you know, you should definitely, you know, I'd love to help you and assist you with it, but you should definitely, when you have some time, get back on that, because that was amazing. And like, you're in the US as well. This is the place for that type of script. That is drama. You know, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So you should definitely do that. You know, get back to doing that. But I know that you're busy with other things as well. And yeah, but to be honest, I've got to say, like, I'm really proud. You know, at first when I was young, I couldn't understand what you were doing, because you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this, you're doing, you know, so many things that you were caught up in. But now I understand, you know, you were busy trying, and just looking at where you are now, just knowing all the things that it's taken you to get there, to get your own TV show and stuff. I get it, you know, and now I'm kind of like in your shoes a couple of years ago, you know, trying. So I understand, and like, yeah, I'm really proud of you for pushing yourself, going to college as a mature student and a single mum, then going to uni, you know, then, you know, you moved to wherever, you know, the opportunities were there for you. You didn't pass up any, well, you did, because I know you passed up an opportunity when we were younger, but that was for us because you wanted us to stay stable where we were living and didn't want to uproot us and stuff. But when we got bigger, then you uprooted yourself. You was like, all right, now they're big, you know, I'm going to try and, you know, do something for myself. And well, you've done it for the family. And like, I'm really proud of you and everything that you've achieved. And, you know, even to see Savannah, you remember when she was younger, she'd be at the TV. Every time you're on the TV, she'd be like, no.
Yeah, she would be my special guest, sit with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sit next to me, sit with me, say hello to everyone, say goodbye to everyone, go to the commercial break with me. Yeah, those are memories. But, you know, thank you so much for saying all that. But it didn't come without a lot of heartache and regrets. And if I could do it all over again, I would plan the way I did it differently. I would make more time for my children, and I would have said no to a few things more
it was
than
meant to go this way.
Yeah, I know, but I think the way that it all happened at the time, you know, being a single parent, you make short-term decisions because you have to. You need to put that money on the table. And when you go out there, you show a brave face and a wonderful smile, and everyone thinks everything is wonderful, and you behave like everything is wonderful. But at the back of your mind, you're just thinking, I hope these people pay me on time, you know, because I have to go and do my shopping for my children. I hope these people pay me, you know, on time, and the check doesn't bounce because I've got my electricity or my gas bill to pay in the winter. You know, it's a front. And that's why sometimes people think, all these famous people, why are they depressed? It's because they've got their own issues and their own memories. Some people can't live with some of the things they had to do to get where they are, you know? And I'm no different. I put on the face. I'm generally a very happy person and a very grateful and thankful person, especially as I get older. I'm more thankful now. But, you know, you can't go back into the past and change things. You can only move forward and learn from the past. And I think that as a community, that's something that we lack. Instead of coming together and doing things for positive outcomes, we come together when there's sadness. We don't come together to build each other.
That's true.
We do not we criticize each other when someone's doing something, you know, good. They won't share secrets. And there's two philosophies I've learned or I've lived with during my career. And one is, you must always listen. You listen more than you ask questions, and more than you talk. Because when you listen, and you listen properly, you will hear things that you didn't know, so that you can ask questions about them, or you will hear certain things where the gaps are, and you'll say, hold on a minute, and then you can, you know, fill in those gaps. And also, people give you respect when you listen. They give you more respect, I should say, when you listen. But if you keep on talking to people, talk, it's all about you. It's not really about them and that person and caring for them. And it gives them an opportunity to say things that perhaps they've buried inside when you're listening. And at the end, they thank you for it. And you actually feel very good about it. You feel, oh my gosh, I can see this person is at peace. The second thing I always say is we must learn to share, because we can, all of us can make a cup of tea. I can give you the same brand tea bag, the same amount of water, milk and sugar, and tell you to make that cup of tea, and your tea will taste different depending on the amount of milk you put. No, it's different. So you can have all the different things to make it, but it's how you put it together is what matters. So you can tell someone this is what you need, and then allow them to learn how to put it together again. And the other thing, the last one I'd say, if I said two, it's three, is don't be a bad DJ. Not being a bad DJ means when you're playing the music, you've seen bad DJs, they're playing the music and they're doing the music and their head is on, you know, and they're looking at their music and they're not looking at, they don't pick up their head and look at what's happening on the dance floor. When you look at what's happening down floor, you can see other people enjoying it. If they're dancing that kind of music, yeah, you keep on going. But then after a while, they put their head down and then they change the music and they don't put the head up because maybe when they've changed the music, people don't like it. So if you always remember who you are, what your brand is, what your purpose is, keep on those things and look at the people around you who are appreciating it. Stick on that track. Be unique. And look at the people who are looking at you and do things that you know that they will like and appreciate, but always be respectful for it. So those are the things that I've learned. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Mum. That was good. That was that was a good example of things. I like the bad DJ part. I know plenty of bad DJs.
Yeah. I'm sure you do.
So, Mum, can you tell me about a few celebrities that you've met and mingled with, please?
I find myself in situations where I see them. Maybe I'm going to interview one of them as part of a film or whatever, and then all the others are there. So I end up sitting down, having drinks, chatting, playing music with loads of people. Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson, most of the Jacksons. Marlon Jackson taught me how to dance well. He tried to teach me how to dance. I've met quite a lot. Nelson Mandela. I've met, sitting down and talking. I never interviewed him. I can't remember what the situation was. He was in London and I think it was a reception, but I happened to just pass him in the corridor. And I said, oh, hello. I said, hello, Nelson. And he went, hello, what's your name? Mike Tyson, most of the sports people that are internationally known, Muhammad Ali, a lot of them, I have met them, and I've enjoyed not having to interview them, but actually talking to them, because we will do walk and talk. So if I've met them on a corridor or something, I'll just turn around and just start walking to wherever they're walking, and we'll joke and we'll laugh. And one thing is, there are certain things that I will never tell people, and certain times people know I've interviewed people or spent some time with people, and I say, what's he like? What's she like? And I never tell them. And the number one person who people always ask me, what's he like? What's she like? I wonder if you could guess. They're from England. Male. He's doing very well in America right now. They even said that he was going to be he could be a black James Bond.
Idris Elba.
That's right. And everyone wants to know, what's he like? Does he really talk like that? And I don't say anything about the people, because these people are friends. And I've actually learned more about interviewing skills with those people off camera than when I have the people. And I wouldn't even say interviewing skills. I think it's about personality. That's been the secret to my success. It doesn't matter who that person is. They are a human being. They feel, touch and feel, and they go to the bathroom just as we do. We just have to know how to approach them with respect, with your own unique personality. So in terms of the career, that's what I need to say about that. And also to say to people, it doesn't matter how old you are or how you look. I remember back in the day, if you wasn't white and you were black, you had to be pretty black, straight nose black, straight hair black, light skin black. There were all those things. And yes, this world, unfortunately, we still have elements of that going. But if you look at a lot of the presenters and producers and directors and the writers, please, I'd like to give credit to the writers, because people tend to forget. You have a talk show, a radio show, a film, a movie, a TV series. all these things, someone has sat down to write it. And the
Yeah.
actor is learning those words, and the director is showing you how to act those words. But without the writer, these things would not happen. And yes, we have certain directors who don't um, want the actor to do word for word. But without the writer writing those words, he couldn't change those words.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that once you have a unique personality, you've got something to say, you can say it in front of the camera or behind the camera. There are no restrictions as to how you look anymore. The only thing is you need to be personable to get the respect. If you're impersonal, you're rude, if that's how you want people to know you, then okay. But if you want respect and if you want other people to gravitate towards you, those are the things that you need to do.
I think that stands more in the US than in the UK, if I'm honest, when it comes to skin tones and stuff like that, because we don't really have a lot of black presenters who are on TV, actual TV stations, as in 1 to 5 main commercial TV, maybe on Sky, and those people are probably paying to have their shows shown on Sky, compared to actually being approached by a TV station and being commissioned to do a show. The only person that I can think of who it's happened to is Trisha Goddard. When it comes to having like a black TV talk show, it's very rare. It's scarce in the UK.
I remember Crystal Rose started many
Crystal
years
Rose.
ago.
Wow, that's old school.
You have to give her credit. This lady, people don't realize what she did to get where she did.
Opened those doors.
There were a lot of people who were criticizing. What they call them, haters, but they don't realize what she had to do to be where she is and to open that path for many of us, like even people like me who I don't do what she does. It's different, but if she didn't pave that way, maybe it may not be as open for us. But you live in the UK more than I do, and I respect your opinion. But I always think that there is a time and a place for everything, and if it's your time, if you apply yourself, and if you go to the right places, who still matters. It really does matter. But, you just have to utilize your networking properly. I know of people who are in wonderful places where they can, there are many opportunities in front of them, but they just don't know how to approach those people. They'll see people who can help them, but they don't know how to approach them. So the moment goes by. So that's another thing that you have to kind of recognize, if you're into this industry, learn how to network, learn how to take advantage of opportunities, find out who's going to be at the places that you're going to be. Get a picture of them so you can recognize them when you see them and know what you're going to say so you can go and introduce yourself. You can never tell.
Going back to Crystal Rose, I think it's amazing that you remember her, and I think that more of our not past, but celebrities from back in the day, who paved the way for Black people, we do need to shout them out, and I haven't heard that name Crystal Rose in quite a while. Actually, the theme to her song, the Crystal Rose show, came to my head.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that she used to have one of the most stylish dress shops in Baker Street in London.
Oh, really?
In those days, that was the place to have your shop. She did all of that. I think now she's into events. She started doing events in South London, and now she does events in the US, because she drops me a WhatsApp now and again saying, hey, when are you coming? We're in the US, are you coming? So I keep in touch with them, kind of. I see where they're heading and what they're doing, and she still very much campaigns for the things that she believes in. There are lots of different people.
I didn't know that she had a closed shop, but that's good.
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
There are lots of people who paved the way, and I think we need to remember these people in times of positivity, not when there's something, And also, maybe we should look at the way Black History Month is celebrated as well, because although, yes, I respect the Windrush era and everything that happened with black slavery and so on. There are other black people who paved the ways in different genres or different career paths, engineers, lots of them, not just in the media path. There's lots of us who remain, we're not acknowledged for the path that we played, and in those days when there was just more racism than there is in these days, and we're going through enough of those. And I always remember when I was younger, and we're talking about what, in the 70s, early 70s, when I used to go to school, and my mom used to take me to school, and when we get to more or less the school gates, I would drop her hand, and I've never really been able to tell her that, but I'd drop her hand and go in. And that was because when I used to go in, that people would say to me, "Oh, your mom's a nigger lover," because my mom was very, light skinned, like you, lighter. She's very, very white.
She's very, very white, yeah.
She was white, and in England, in the cold, her skin appeared white. And they would say, "Oh, your mom's a nigger lover." I'll always remember that. And then I won it over by just being pleasant, not by saying, "And you're this and you're that," just by being pleasant, being respectful, getting on with my work, choosing who my friends were, and after that, they didn't see the color of my skin. But maybe I was just fortunate to be in an area where they didn't continue it. If I was in another area, maybe that would not have worked at that time.
I always remember you telling me that when I was growing up. I always remember you saying that to me. So I know that it, even though you got past it, I know that it affected you. But you know what? Grandma's a beautiful, beautiful woman. They were probably just jealous.
Yeah, well, people don't care about the personality. They just think, color of your skin. But I think that it's unfortunate that being in England and going through most of my life in the education system there, that there was not anything that told me about where I came from. In those days, people would say, "Oh, where are you from? Jamaica or Africa?" That was it. You from Jamaica?
Yes.
You from Africa?
Yes.
The Caribbean was not, if you were in the Caribbean, you're Jamaican.
It's true.
Or maybe you're from Barbados.
Yes.
And then maybe Trinidad. But it took a very long time before we got from Jamaica to Barbados to Trinidad, or Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados. It was always you're either from Africa, and then it was Nigeria sometimes afterwards, if they kind of thought that your accent was different. Not that it was, because you were British just like them. Yeah. But, we had to go through all of those things. But I just wish that instead of teaching me about the Tudors and the Vikings and the Victorians, which is what we were taught in school, I would have liked to have known the role that my forebearers played in the army, in the British Army, because we had black soldiers. I would like to know the things that, the black people suffered for England. It wasn't for anything else but England. The stories of when England, the Britain went into the Caribbean to, the Windrush era, where they took the Caribbean people into England to do the jobs that the Caucasian British people didn't want to do. I have learned more about Black history being in America than I have about the country that I was born in England.
Yeah, I can believe.
And I think that is so sad, because now that with everything, the George Floyd situation happening around here, I look at all these statues, and I think of I lived in Charleston for quite a while, and I didn't realize until I think last year, Black History Month in America, because it's different from in England.
Yes.
I started watching different television series about what was happening in Charleston, where I lived. And I always say to people, "Oh, I love Charleston. Charleston is wonderful, blah, blah, blah." And I would walk in the streets and then see these series and see exactly where I was walking in front of the library. That's where they lynched, these women, these black women. And I was even like, over the George Floyd episode and everything that's happened now, I've been looking at different documentaries. And I saw this documentary about Emmett Till. I've seen the name Emmett Till in lots of things, but just kind of glanced it and didn't realize that they lynched this guy, put a concrete block around him, put him in a lake. Why? Because he wolf whistled a white woman. That's all he did. He was in the town spend some time with his grandparents. The first day I think he was from Chicago. He went to visit his grandparents in Alabama, and wolf whistled. The next day, wolf whistled. They went to the grandfather, said, listen, he wolf whistled at a white woman, then you should send him home to his mother. The same night, they told him that. The same day it happened, they came to his house early in the morning, took him and did that to him. You know how old Emmett Till was? 14.
Oh.
And the people who did it to him got away with it. They went to a trial and said and they got away with it. So all these things, it just, to me, it's not about American, British, African. We're all black, and we came from. You've got the experience about, going in, looking into your ancestry. When you see where you come from, you're likely going to be coming from those areas. So it happens. And if you go to certain places in the world, I've traveled a lot. And when you go to certain places in the world, like I went to James Island in the Africas, and before I got there, I was sweating. I was feeling sick. Everything was going wrong with me. I couldn't believe it. And when it was time to go from the boat, they give you a little canoe to go across. I tried to get out of the boat. I could not get out of it. I could not. And I know now why. In another life, I was either one of those slaves, or my ancestors came from there. And a lot of people, if you talk to them, they'll say, when you eventually reach to that place, that's why you see all these celebrities and so on, they're trying to find out now, and they're going. And when they get there, they'll tell you, I feel I cannot explain it. And that's happened to me. I know. So I think it's very important that if there's anything I could do for my grandchildren, it would be that. It would be to let them know, about, but not not in sadness. It's not about, well, we have to do this. And it's not about, it's just about educating them so that they value the life that they have now, and they make good and better, because these people before them had to suffer in order to get us to where we are now. I'm talking about the positivity. I'm not talking about preaching to them all the bad so that they start to feel bad about other cultures, Yeah, I'm passionate about that.
No, I definitely understand that. I remember when you told me that you used to be a dancer when you were younger, and I think you used to do singing as well, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, could you have taken? Is there any moment where you felt like, you could have taken your career in a different direction, like to becoming an artist or entertainer, or besides being a presenter and editor and stuff?
There's a yes and no to this, but there was a time when my path could have changed, and it wasn't anything in terms of entertainment. It was more a production role, but I think it would have led me to the same path that I took. I was working on a production with a company in Camden, and they were producing a very quick turnaround documentary on Norman Beaton. He was the lead of a TV series in England called Desmond's. It was about a barber shop.
Yes.
And he passed very quickly. And so Channel 4 commissioned this production company, to produce a documentary about him. And I was part of the production team. And as part of the production team, we had to interview lots of people. And two of those people were actually in America. One was Mickey Rourke, which perhaps you would know him, but a lot of people in those days, Mickey Rourke was, very huge. And then the other person, of course, who you would know, is Oprah Winfrey. Yeah. And so it was my role to just get these people on the telephone so the producer could speak to them. So got Mickey Rourke, no problem, straight to the producer. Then when it was time for Oprah Winfrey, her agent put her on. Instead of the agent being transferred to the producer, the agent said, hold on a moment. She didn't say she was going to put her on. And Oprah said, hello. So I recognized her voice straight away. I said, "Oh, hello, Miss Ruth." I said, "This is not the producer. This is Delia Dolor." She said, "Hello, Miss Dolor. How are you?" And I went into, well, and I can remember saying, "Well, you know, we're just doing just about Desmond, and I said I did an article recently about hairdressers in England and blah blah blah. And you know, the one thing about the hair industry, and I was talking to her about my hair and the hair industry." And she was laughing and so on. But I said a lot in about a minute or so. And she said, "You know, she said, what do you say your name was again?" I said, "Delia." She said, "Delia, you pack your bags and you come to America, and you are an artist in the making. I can see a role for you. Just pack your bags. Let my assistant give you the details, you know, after the call." She said, "It was a pleasure talking to you." I said, No, you're supposed to be talking to me, you know." She said, "Yeah, I know that. I know I'm here to speak about Norman Beaton. I know that. And put through to the producers. And I remember driving home that day, but you know, you and your brother were very young, and thinking, "Oh my gosh." But it was just a thought, and then it went away. I never thought of it as, oh yeah, even when things were bad and whatever, I never thought, well, pack my bags. And if I was single, in terms of no children, I think it's something that I would have most probably tried to aim for. But, you know, that wasn't my priority. And in those days, I wasn't thinking of being a talk show host or anything like that. I was just doing a production job to make ends meet.
You should have packed your bags and got us on that plane.
I had 2 young children. You don't just pack your bags. Remember, it's not easy to just go into America. You
well,
need
you
a
hear
visa,
about
you need
these
a work
stories
permit.
all the time, Mum. It's called the American dream.
Yeah, I know. But you see, again, if I was more focused in my life, if it was something that I want to be a presenter, then perhaps maybe I would have done it. But in those times, I wasn't thinking, I want to be a presenter. I was thinking, I just want to make money. And because that's how I could make the money, being a production assistant, which is not, you know, in those days, you just made the cups of teas and you went to make the photocopies. Not everyone had photocopy machines. You had to go to the photocopy machine shop and,
yes.
You know, you had to ring people up, you know, glamorous title, but it was like, you know, Girl Friday, just do all the little bits and pieces. But I met some really nice people and spoke to some people and got into Channel 4. And, you know, again, that's how I made friends, going to Channel 4, seeing all these people, you know. And then he goes, "Hi, my name's Delia. What's your name?" And people were very nice. I've always been lucky to have approached the right people to talk to and be friends with, or just get to know and put them in my contact book, you know.
That's brilliant. That is what an experience to have with Oprah Winfrey.
That was many years ago. I don't even know how old I was. I was in my late 20s or something like that. Many years ago.
That's amazing, though. Okay, so my last question for you is, what would you say to people who are trying to break into, you know, the careers of becoming a journalist or a presenter or an editor? What kind of advice would you give them?
I would say be very focused and know what you want to do and who you're going to target. Because there's no point saying, and I mentor many university students from the UK and the US, and I say to them, I've asked them questions, and I'll say, "So what do you want to do?" They'll say, "Oh, I'm not sure, you know, I want to work in television." That's a definite no-no. And I spend a lot of my time fine-tuning them to say, you need to know what you want to do. Then they'll say, "Okay, I want to be a presenter." "All right, what would you like to present?" "Oh, well, anything. I have skills, I can present. You tell me what to do. I said, "No, you've got to specialize. Do you want to present the news? Do you want to present a talk show? Do you want to present an entertainment show? Do you want to present documentaries? Do you want to be a live presenter?" They said, "Oh, well, if I do one, I can do all." I said, "No, in order for you to get noticed, you have to be very good in one or two areas. I'm not saying just go down the line, but you have to have an interest. And apart from that, you also have to know who is like you, doing well out there." I'm not saying to do that because you want to be like them, but you can, if you see them, then you know why, try and think why they're successful. Also think about your audience. We go back to the bad DJ again. So if you're going to be doing live entertainment shows, then look at the content that people who visit live entertainment shows go to. So if it's comedy, you look at the comedians, you look at those live entertainment shows of comedians, you know, and then when you get all your information together, look at your social media as the way to go. Producers and so on. You have to know who it is you're going to target. You look the part. Preparation is key, and preparation is going to take you more time than actually doing it. Your research, whether it's the research of the people, the platform you want to be on, even how to apply your makeup properly, all those things will take more time than when you actually say, right, okay, I'm going to shoot my first video now, because you've got all the information. You already put your makeup on. It won't take as long as before, and your hair, So the preparation is more important, and do not rush the preparation. If you're not ready, just say, I'm not ready. Get prepared.
Preparation will put a lot of people off.
Yeah, but you have to, because you have to remember, when you put something online, you can't just take it off. And if you do just take it off, someone else has it somewhere. It's there somewhere. It's there somewhere. And then you look at and you think, I could do better. Yeah, you could do better, but you rush the pre-production. So this is what you get. This is what you get. So when people take their time to do something, it's better than rushing. Because it is, I've seen lots of YouTube videos where they say, content is more important than how you present it. And then others will say, how you present it is more than how it looks. Well, you know what? The best way is the way when you're comfortable. And if you're doing something and you're thinking, oh God, I don't look my best, I don't feel my best, I'm not saying it the way that I wanted to say, it means you haven't prepared enough. And there's nothing wrong in admitting to that, and just do more preparation. And the other thing I would say to people, especially if you're in the media, practice and record before you go anywhere. If you want to send an audition tape in, if you want to do something, go in front of that mirror, look at yourself and say it, or put the camera in front of you and say exactly what it is you think you're going to say. And you will see that you look much more different than you think you're looking. You think that you might look good, you'll notice, I need to put my chin down a little bit. I'm actually talking like this, You'll notice, this side of my hair is thicker than this side, so I have to pull this side a bit more. I've got to, you'll notice all these things. There is nothing worse than going through the whole production of recording everything and seeing yourself, or hearing your voice and thinking, oh my gosh, I said lots of okay, guys, You do these things when you get, I spoke too quickly. You do all these things when you have not prepared. Yes. And if you have prepared and you start to go into it naturally, like I do sometimes when I've prepared, but I'm so excited in what the person is saying, or I become so relaxed, I start being myself, and I'll go, no, I'll talk too quickly. But then as I'm doing it, it'll click in my head, talking too quickly, slow down. I will recognize that because I have practiced, I have rehearsed. But I've watched myself, I've heard myself. It's not being vain. It's just wanting to produce something that when you look at it, you say, oh, yeah, I actually like what I did. Or I like how I look. Or next time, I'll, do that a little bit. But at least you prepared.
Yes. And that's some great advice there. Thank you, Mum. Wow, it has been really, really good talking to you.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Oh, my gosh.
It is strange. It's very different to my other conversations that I had, but I think that's just because you're my mum.
Yeah, well, and it's always good to know the people. I'm sure there are one or two things I said that you might not have known because, as you grow up, you don't always tell your children what's going on in your life. And the children don't always understand why jobs are essential. We are just very lucky, some of us, to do a job that we like doing. There have been times, and I'm not the only one, where I've had to do a job just because it puts money on the table, and I never liked it at all. A lot of people, that's what they're faced with. I was just very lucky to be able to do something that was media related and enjoy it. And now that you're an adult and you are also in the media, you'll understand better and differently about some of the choices that I made and why I always looked very happy doing those things. It was a mixture of happiness, yes, but also a mixture of this was the way to put food on the table, and the better I am at it, the more jobs I'll get and put more food on the table. But saying that, the great days were when we had to mix all our stuff in the fridge, the leftovers, and when you had to, penny pinch to pay the utilities and so on. Those are the best times and the best moments. And I remember those more than the actual people I interviewed and so on and so forth. You know, so even if you had to ask me what was, you know, the best moments of your career, I couldn't tell you, because all I can remember is the moments, the family moments, the time when my granddaughter was at the radio studio with me, just going, hello, 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 just in the microphone, hello,
Yeah.
hello. You
She's
know, I
actually
remember
sat
things like
across the
that.
table from me. She's listened to this whole conversation. So
Yeah, he always does that, you know,
I asked her
wherever
if she
I
wanted to
am.
sit in, but she said no. So,
That's
but
not
she
like
listened
her.
though.
But she's not
Yeah.
hasn't got her makeup on.
No.
Oh, there you go. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah, when
remember those
makeup isn't
things.
done.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Those are the things I remember, and preparing and knowing, you know, when, you know, she's in St. Lucia with me, going to the TV station, my grandson falling asleep in the studio in his little carry thing. You know, these are the
Yeah.
things I remember. You know, my children helping me setting up the stand when we did a celebration of my sisters. Remember when you and
Yeah.
Aline was with us, and my grandchildren setting up the Dolor Factor stand when I
Yes.
presented it with their mothers,
Wow.
you know, and those are the things I remember more than the people I spoke to. I even had
It's
tea with
true.
the Queen. Those are not important things to me, you know, it's
Do you know what?
more
I
the
feel
life.
bad now because I know when I was younger, I used to be like, oh, with some of the things like the drama, vibrations, that was great. I was all there for the rehearsal.
Yeah,
When you were
vibrations
on
in New York,
stage
yeah.
doing stuff like celebrations of my sister, brilliant, love watching you. But sometimes with the preparation, getting things started, and actually, I think it was after, because it took so many hours when it was time to go. And you know, you'd have to
Yeah,
speak to certain people, or you'd be like, "Oh, I need to go and do this. I need to go and do that," and then I'd be like, "Oh, I want to
yeah.
go. I want to go."
Yeah, no, it's true. And you look back at those things, and you know, if I
But yeah,
could
I'm
do them
sorry for
differently,
that, Mum.
I could. No, but we all, you know, these are things that in life we all have those things. Everyone has a career and a job, no matter what it
But
is,
yeah,
and you're
now I
going to find
understand
out.
that obviously you had to do this. That was your work. That was your job. That was how you got paid. That was your career. And then you had me, the stroppy one. Ali wasn't too bad. He would keep himself entertained. I don't know how, but I think
Yeah,
I
he
was
was very much an entertainer.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
I
But me,
still think that
I
he's
was the
wasting
mopey
his
one. Like
time. He should be an entertainer.
yeah, he should be a comedian. He would blow
He's
up, seriously.
he
But he did
is.
say something to me the other day that he's planning on doing something, so I'm looking forward to
Okay.
that. Yes, yes.
Okay, because I
But he
remember
should
once when
definitely.
I was with him, and Jeff Schumann and Richard Black was with me, and he said something, and they looked at me like, hey, hey. I remember Jeff said, let me take him on the stage with me. Let me take him. And you know, my son was like, not going, not going. You know?
Yeah, he is really funny.
Yeah,
He is an entertainer. He's a
yeah.
natural entertainer. And you know what? I just think with everybody, it's just all about timing. Everything's
Yes,
all
it's
about
true.
that. And yeah, and as I'm getting older,
It's
I'm starting
true.
to realize everything happens for a reason. And as time goes by, I was saying this on the last conversation I had, everything has its time. And the way that things have happened, it's all happened for a reason. And it will come together in the future. It will
Yeah,
all, you know, fit together like a big jigsaw. So
yeah. Well, you know,
yeah,
I always say, unless someone is ready, they won't do it. Doesn't matter how you say
true.
to them, you can do this, you can do that. Oh my gosh, you're really good.
It's true.
Until
It's
that
true.
person is ready to do it, nothing's going to happen.
It's true. It's very, very true. It's true. And I remember when we were younger, you used to get us involved in loads of things. Like you got me involved in dancing, and that was quite a good experience because I've got so many memories of doing like amazing things, dancing, like going to Paris and
Mm-hmm.
dancing on stage with Diana Ross and doing all those amazing things. And even with my brother, him, you know, we were doing the carnivals in these big, beautiful, amazing costumes and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we did lots of stuff. And I remember even like the babysitters that you used to have. I remember one lady, Kelsey, she used to film us singing and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
used to get some really
yeah.
talented people to
Well, look at you. I always used to say to you, you can write. You know, you write so well and so basic, but when I say basic, I mean basic in terms of you someone can read and understand, but the concepts that you're writing are very intricate. I wouldn't say they're complicated, they're intricate. You read them and you think, oh my gosh,
yeah, I
yes,
don't like big
yes.
words.
Uh,
I don't like
you
big
don't like big
words.
words. Yeah, but you know what? You do them so well. And I used to say to you all the time, you can write, you can do this, you can do it. And you're like, no, no, no. But, in those days, you wasn't ready. You just wasn't ready. So no matter what I said to you, it wasn't going to happen. And now you come into your own. You're interviewing all these, as you say, best-selling novelists. You're interviewing authorities on all different types of subjects. You're very versatile. And sometimes it's very difficult to accept praise. And I have that problem. People say, oh, you're so good. I'm thinking, I just do it. And I think you have a trait like that because you've got the natural ability. But when someone says something to you, maybe you don't take it as.
Do you know what? I think it's just basically like what I've grown up around, watching you, and it's just like normal. I remember falling asleep to the sound of your voice doing interviews sometimes at the radio station, crazy hours in the morning and stuff. It's just in me. I think it's just learnt traits of things that I've learnt of you. And not to mention Auntie Brenda as well, seeing her and seeing both of you, when I got to see you both present together on the stage and celebrations of my sisters and stuff like that. That was amazing for me, like seeing my mom and my auntie up on stage, speaking to all these people in the audience,
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun, and, also it just makes you appreciate life. And so it doesn't matter what the doom and gloom is around us. You just have to make sure that the people who are nearest and dearest to you understand the kind of life you're trying to build. And as I said, it's always good to listen. So you can ask a question, especially when it comes to children. I wish that I had asked questions and listened more to my children's responses than always thinking I was making the right decision for them, or I'm the adult, so they have to do as I say. We do that a lot. And
I think that's just because of the generation that you were brought up by. That's how they thought as well,
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Most of our generations were like that, but I wish I had listened more. And I think that life would have changed. That would have been another, way to respond to your previous questions about path. I think if I had asked the questions and my children felt that they could answer honestly and say, well, Mum, we don't like this. We've had enough. We don't understand. I would have stopped to think, well, you know what? Maybe I do need to spend more time with my children. This can wait, but I didn't give them the opportunity because I was so focused on making money,
You know what? In the end, Mum, I'm just glad that we are where we are today. I'm glad you are where you are today. We wouldn't be where we are right now if it wasn't for those decisions that you made. We could have still been where we were,
true.
So, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we can think about them, but like you say, we have to live now in the present and make the most of the present and do the best that you can do. And I say you, I mean, generally speaking, as mothers, don't follow your mother's footsteps if it's not the footsteps that you want to follow. You follow your own unique footstep, because at the end of the day, your children will have to, live peacefully with you, and you're going to outgrow or outlive, I should say, your mother. So you've got to do what you think is good for you as a mother, not what your mother wants you to do.
Oh, I understand. Well, thank you for that motherly advice, Mum.
You've heard it all the time, I'm sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Kandy's Conversations, Mum. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so happy that we spoke. I'm so happy that, I had the chance to interview you. And thank you, Mum.
Well, thank you for asking me. And also, I want to say, I'm very proud of you. I know that you've spoken a lot about the things that you've been through your book, Abandoned Pregnant, which I say to many of my friends, I to be completely honest, I have not finished reading it, because every time I start reading it, it's just so painful and hurtful.
To be honest, Mum, I'm trying to move on from that, because when I wrote that book, I always wanted to write, but I wanted to write stories, crazy stories. But for some reason, I never ever was able to write these stories. And it took that anger and that sadness in me that made me write that. But now, that was like over 10 years ago, funny enough. I wrote that ages ago, put it together in 2014. So now I've come so far away from it. I just feel like I don't want to be there anymore. I don't want to talk about that anymore. over and done with that
Well, that takes,
experience.
well, you know, that takes a lot of strength and determination. And that's why I'm proud of you, because all along those times, I've not always been with you, and I've not always been aware of everything that you go through, because, you know, no one can really know exactly what the other person has gone through. But I know enough to know that if you wasn't as strong and determined as you are, you know, you couldn't possibly, you definitely would not be the way that you are now. You definitely would not have two wonderful children who I sing praises, not just because they're my grandchildren, but I sing praises of them all the time, because they know life as it really is. I maybe try to shadow and to put curtains over you and your brother's eyes, but you don't. Your parenting is different. It's a different style of parenting which is needed right now, and you've done that, you know, on your own, basically, and also trying to fit a career with everything else that you're doing. So it's not very often that people, and I think families, don't say that they love each other and then they're proud of each other. They wait until a sad moment to do so. But I always say it, I continually say it, that I love you and I'm proud of you. And I know that there are even better things to come for you, because you are making your path now.
I love you too, Mum, and I'm proud of you as well. Thank you. Thanks,
Okay,
Mum.
daughter.
Okay,
So remember
Mum.
I used to call you that, sing that song, Daughters Go
No,
Down.
don't do that. Please don't.
All right then.
Don't do that. Let my secrets out.
Okay. Oh dear. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Mum.
You're more than welcome.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Mum.